Now, questions 9 until I think like 15 or 17 or something. We're going to focus on reading-based questions based on the text. How does the Lord Chancellor respond to the crowd? So I guess I'll read through. Make sure you read the blurb to understand context. The following is adapted from Lewis Carroll's 1889 satirical novel, Sylvie and Bruno. A crowd has gathered outside a room belonging to the warden, an official who reports to the Lord Chancellor. This is important information. Also, when you're reading through, make sure you visualize what is being said, so that way you understand what's going on. One man who was more excited than the rest flung his hat high in the air and shouted as well as I can make out, "Who roared for the sub-warden?" Everybody roared, but whether it was for the sub-warden or not did not clearly appear. Some were shouting bread and some taxes, but no one seemed to know what it was that they really wanted. All this I saw from the open window of the warden's breakfast saloon, looking across the shoulder of the Lord Chancellor. What can it all mean? He kept repeating to himself. I never heard such shouting before, and at this time of the morning, too, and with such unanimity. Okay, so people are yelling for the Lord Chancellor. They want something from him. And so the Lord Chancellor, he understands that they all agree on this something. So how does he respond? Well, he responds with confusion, right? Because he says, well, what does it all mean? I never heard such shouting, right? And then with unanimity, okay. The Lord Chancellor, make sure you understand your pronouns and who they refer to. It does make a difference. He asks about the meaning of the crowd's shouting, even though he claims to know what the crowd wants. Does he know? Does the Lord Chancellor claim to know what the crowd wants? No, it's not supported. You can't assume this. He indicates a desire to speak to the crowd, even though the crowd has asked to speak to the sub-warden. But again, does he speak to the crowd? No, right? And then here, well, the crowd asks to speak to the sub-warden, but don't forget, the Lord Chancellor is the highest force, right? So you have the warden and then you have the Lord Chancellor. So if the crowd really wants to talk to someone, it would be the Lord Chancellor. I wouldn't say answer B. He expresses the Lord Chancellor, right? Make sure you know what the pronouns are. The Lord Chancellor expresses sympathy for the crowd's demands, even though the crowd's shouting annoys him. Well, does it annoy him? Maybe, right? But he expresses sympathy for their demands. Well, from what I understand here, it's a bit confused because he's saying, what can it all mean? You only say this when you're confused. And finally, answer D, he describes the Lord Chancellor, right? The crowd as being united. Well, does he describe the crowd as being united? Well, yes. And where does he describe this? Well, unanimity, right? This comes from the word unanimous, right? What does this mean? It means you're united on something. You all agree to something. Okay, let's continue. Even though the crowd clearly appears otherwise. Well, does the crowd appear otherwise? Does the crowd seem not united? Well, I can tell you as well, yes. And where does it show this? Well, the crowd over here. The crowd is somewhere screaming for the warden, some are screaming for bread, other people are screaming for taxes. So they're not really united on what they want. And so the answer is D, right? It describes the crowd as united, being unanimous. However, the crowd is everything but. Which finding, if true, supports the student's claim? And so the claim is somewhere down here. Now, people will tell you, well, you don't have to read, just read the claim. Just read the sentence. It's only a sentence. If you can't read the sentence or one sentence, then you have no business taking the SAT, right, guys? Because people ask, oh, do I have to read? People are still asking that, although College Board now gives you like 90 words to read. Like, no comment. Born in 1891 to a Q-speaking family in the Andes Mountains of Peru, Martin Chambi is today considered to be one of the most renowned figures in Latin America photography. In a paper for an art history class, a student claims, so this is the important part, right? A student claims that Chamby's photographs, excuse me, have considerable ethnographic value in his work. Chamby was able to capture diverse elements of Peruvian society, representing his subjects with both dignity and authenticity. So we need an example of this claim. And so basically, Chamby, number one, is considerably ethnographic, shows the culture. Number two, it doesn't just show one aspect of the culture, it shows diverse aspects of the culture. Look at answer A. Chamby took many commissioned portraits of wealthy Peruvians. Okay. But he also produced hundreds of images carefully documenting the peoples, sites, and customs of indigenous communities of the Andes. So ring-a-ding-ding, I like answer A. These two parts support the diverse elements. And these parts, people, sites, and customs of indigenous communities indicates the ethnographic value. Let's look at the other answer choices. A high level of technical skill, but we're not talking about technical skill right now, are we? Right? Illumination and light, also what? No, off topic. During his lifetime, Chamby was known and celebrated both within and outside his native Peru, as his work was published in places like Argentina, Spain, and Mexico. Okay, great and everything. However, does this show ethnography? Does it show diverse elements of a culture? No. Some of the peoples and places Chamby photographed had long been popular subjects of Peruvian photographers. But again, we need culture here, and we simply don't have that. Answer A is the best. So I'm not going to read through the whole paragraph, just okay, it's about collectives or art collectives. Let's get to the actual claim. Now, remember, I recommend you read the paragraph of Beautiful People, right? An arts journalist claims that this can be difficult for artists who are often used to having sole control over their work. Here, what is this? Collaboration, right? Collaboration, working together. That's what this is. And so the journalist claims that collaboration is difficult because artists often use or are used to solo control over their work, right? So which one supports the claim? Which supports the claim that artists are used to solo work, moving solo dolo, both creativity-wise and management. A, the first collective I joined included many amazing, talented artists, and we enjoyed each other's company. But because we had a hard time sharing credit and responsibility for our work, the collective did not last. Does this support the claim that artists are used to having control of their work? Yes, it is. Because answer A tells us that although they worked together, they couldn't agree on sharing credit and responsibility. If you go through the other answer choices, right, we work together, but that doesn't mean that the individual projects are equally work of all of us. Many of our projects are primarily the responsibility of whoever originally proposed the work to the group. This doesn't show that they like to work solo. They like to work alone. C, it's hard to recall what it was like to work alone. I mean, again, this doesn't show us solo dolo. I don't know if you guys know Mr. Solo Dolo. Answer D, sometimes an artist from outside the collective will choose to collaborate with us on a project, but all of these projects fit within the larger theme. Where is Mr. Solo Dolo? Do you guys know Solo Dolo? Kid Cudi? Man on the Moon? No? Okay. Answer is A. I like this type of question. It's like a puzzle type question. I enjoy these most of all in the digital SAT. Researchers hypothesized, right, because it's going to ask which supports the hypothesis, that a decline in the population of dusky sharks near the mid-Atlantic Ocean, led to a decline in the population of eastern oysters. Okay, so sharks down, oysters down. Sharks do not consume oysters, so the sharks do not eat oysters. So what eats the oysters? But do consume cow nose rays, which are the main predators of the oysters. So think about this now. So the shark eats a cow nose ray, and cow nose rays eat oysters, correct? So that means if we have a lot of sharks, we're going to have few rays and we're going to have a lot of oysters. Well, that means also if we have a decline in sharks, because they're the predators of the rays, we're going to have an increase in the rays, which eat oysters, which will decrease the oysters. That's what we're looking for, right? If one goes up, the other one goes down, the natural predators. Like, for example, if you have one me amongst a bunch of chickens, I'm eat all the chickens because I like chicken. A lot of people said A, declines in the regional abundance of dusky sharks abundance of dusky sharks prey other than the cow nose rays are associated with regional declines in dusky shark abundance. We don't know if there's regional decline, right? And then declines in the regional abundance of dusky sharks prey other than the cow nose? What? Off topic, right? We're only talking about the shark, the ray, the cow nose ray, and the oyster, right? Eastern oyster abundance tends to be greater in areas with both dusky sharks and cow nose rays. No, there's a lot of cow nose rays. There's going to be few oysters. Why? Because the rays eat the oysters. It's only natural, right? Answer C. A lot of people told me here, answer C. Consumption of eastern oysters by cow nose rays in the region substantially increased before the regional decline in dusky shark abundance. We don't know this. So you're telling me that the rays increased eating the oysters just before the sharks declined? We don't know if it increased before or after the decline of the sharks. We just know that it's the result now. Cow nose rays have increased in regional abundance as dusky sharks have decreased in regional abundance. Yes. And then think about why, right? Like we said, think about what is being said right now. And the shark eats the ray and the rays eat the oyster. So if we have a decrease in shark, we will have an increase in rays because there's nothing to eat them, which will eat more oysters, which will decrease the oysters. So we can assume that the numbers of the cow nose rays have increased because the numbers of the sharks have decreased. And also the numbers of oysters have decreased. Bit of a long one there.